Good morning. Good Sunday morning. Good Labor Day weekend. Hope everybody's having a good holiday, and we're going to be able to enjoy this weekend. What we have of it and everything. I hope everybody will be able to. Let me see if I can move this microphone here just a tad closer here. I don't know if this is going to help or not. Trying to adjust a couple things. Trying to change a few things up. Excuse me this morning for getting started here. I'm out at the dealership this morning. The stream is really good out here. I hope the volume works good. I'll put me on an external mic. If somebody give me a thumbs up or a chat or whatever, tell me to make sure the volume is okay and the video is okay. I hope it is. As you see through the title and everything. Good. Okay. Thank you, Ryan. I'm a man of many hats this weekend. I've had to do a variety of every job that I have. I've had to do the auto parts. Of course, you see the sign behind me. I've had to wear that hat, Cherryville Auto Parts, because I've been collecting all the parts. Hey, Tim, glad to see you this morning. Thumbs up. Okay, great. First, here is one of my oldest hats, I guess, that RPS hat. That's a hat from way back when I first started in the trucking as a owner. RPS was the company that I started with. It eventually turned into FedEx Ground, but it was RPS when I first started with it. That was back in 1987. I started for 6 months. I actually ran a package van. And then after that, I got the line haul with RPS out of Hickory. And I ran line haul out of Hickory until about, I want to say 1990. And then I transferred everything to Kernersville. And then after Kernersville, they changed and they built the bigger hub. And this is one reason I did the Kernersville. It was really inconvenient for me because I didn't move down there, but I drove down there every day and had drivers that drove out of Kernersville, and we ran the runs out of Kernersville. Kernersville at that time, I think I was running what they call Clyde. I ran up to from now they do it East Knoxville, but I ran from Kernersville to Clyde, North Carolina, and back on one of the runs. And then I ran. Hey, Doug, glad to see you this morning. I ran that for a number of years, and then we were able to move everything to the Charlotte location. That was the reason I moved to Kernersville, because I knew I wanted to get into the hub situation instead of a local terminal situation, and that worked out pretty good. But that's how that started. But this week, let me get back to it and everything. This week's been very busy. I bought out a parts store in Kings Mountain. I own this Napa store here in Cherryville, and one in Kings Mountain. An older established parts house went out of business. The gentleman, Bob Bridges, kind of aged out, and none of his children or grandchildren wanted to carry on the tradition of his parts business. So they basically sold the business, and it worked. It worked pretty good for me. So I did that and decided to, take advantage of the situation, because I was able to get some good parts at a good price, basically closeout prices and everything. And I'll be able to move that merchandise and blend it in with my merchandise at my Napa store. Now, some of it will be have a little bit of obsolescence, you might say, but the majority of it should be able to be blended right in. At least we hope so. That's the theory behind me doing this. So I hope that I had a good theory with this and won't make any mistakes. You never know. Well, hey, Sarge, glad to see you in here too. You hit 500. Well, I'm not there yet, Doug. Glad to see you did. I hope I can get on up there myself. I'm fairly new at this as far as I've only been doing the YouTube videos for about 4 months. I hope that a lot of people will want to see what I've got, see what knowledge that I have in the trucking industry, the parts business, tools, a few things like that. And I'll be able to maybe expand on my knowledge if people are interested in what I've got to say. I hope they are. And so far, so good. Everything seems to be pretty good. One thing I did do, tech end, I'm using an iMac, and I'm using an iMac, and I said, man, I can't hardly see this. I'm getting too old. So I went in and changed my resolution so I could see the chat, because the chat, the video looks the same, but the chat was getting really, really small. So I said, I got to change that. My bifocals can only do so much. But we've had a very productive week, very busy week. Getting ready to do a 3,000-mile run Tuesday. Hope to be home Thursday. Where you headed, Sarge? Hey, Greg. I've had to do a little bit of everything. I've concentrated a lot with the acquisition of the parts, and of course, I had to do a little bit of FedEx work at the end of the week too. Have to get in there and do a little bit of driving, moving some equipment around, and basically, oh man, let me sit up a little bit straighter. This chair, you get to, you're going to go from Texas, Dallas, then back to South Florida. Okay. So you'll be running, I-20 a good bit. Doug, what was your secret to getting to 500s? People out there wanting to see, was it just your content that you feel like that your addition of your content, or what do you feel like helped you get? I like to see everybody get their sub count up and everything myself. I tried, I will tell you one thing. One thing that helped me this week, and it's helped me a bunch. I jumped a good many subscribers this week because I was interviewed by Red Viking Trucker. He wanted to talk to me about my trucking experience, and he's talked to me a couple of times. He had emailed me, and I don't know who told him about me, but he got in touch with me a couple of months ago, and we finally got together with a chat on his line. Now, it didn't go as well as we wanted because his bandwidth was pretty bad, but after that interview, I had a big boost in subs, which I'm glad. And I'm glad I see some of them on here. Hopefully they came from RVT's site. And, I want to be able to expand my knowledge to other people and tell them about the opportunities that we have with FedEx Ground and the opportunities that I've got going on with my Napa store and everything that I'm involved with. That's me. I've been out here a good while. I feel like I've got some valuable experience that I could tell some people about if they've got questions about trucking in general. I've been in it since 1967. I started as a kid. I was still in high school in 1967. And I started working on the dock, and then I learned to be a yard switcher at Carolina Freight. And I did that until I was 21, and I was able to get my chauffeur's license. Now, chauffeur's license is what we had prior to CDL license. There was not I think the CDL license came into effect about I want to say 1987, something like that, 1988. I think I was already with RPS when it came down to it was mandated, it might have been 89, that they mandated that we go to what they call a CDL. Used to be that we would have just one driver's license for, like I just had just the state of North Carolina. And then if I had, here's what drivers used to do. They got in trouble with their North Carolina license, they would have a South Carolina license or Virginia license or whatever. But they were called chauffeur's license. Yeah, Sarge. When I first started, that's what they were. Good morning, Jesse. Glad to see you in here. When we first started, like I said, it was chauffeur's license. I think I've got a copy somewhere of one of my old license. Wasn't my first chauffeur's license, but I think I've got a copy of it somewhere. I might have to show people. And it said chauffeur on it. It didn't say CDL. It said chauffeur. And just like a chauffeur, if you're getting a car and a chauffeur picks you up, that was the same exact license that we used to have for tractor trailer trucks. And they decided to, distinguish between that and CDLs back in, like I said, I think the mandate was around 1989, like a limo driver. Yeah, it was the same exact license. You could do a limo, taxi, tractor trailer, all those sort of things. That's all you had to do. You were on the wrong account. What account were you on, Jay? Okay, but anyway, they had just a chauffeur's license back then, and it would go. You could get different endorsements. You could get a bus endorsement, a few other things, I think, but mainly you just had the chauffeur's license. And then when they came out with the commercial driver's license back in '89, I believe it was, then it changed. So then you had the distinction, like I said, of, had all the different endorsements, the twins, the tanker, the bus driver, whatever. And then they changed it from Class A, Class B, Class C, I think, drivers. So a lot of different classes like that too would be involved. I might take a drink of my Diet Mountain Dew right quick. Get to talking too much, and between that and the AC running and everything else, and watching everything pop in here, you gotta watch your pop ins on this. But that's the way it used to be. Like I said, back in the day, it was called chauffeur's license. Now, like I said, with all the endorsements and everything else we have, a lot of distinction. And I would imagine the red tape's going to continue getting more and more. I mean, now we have to have, I worked off paper logs for, most of my career. I've worked off paper logs. And then now the electronic logs came into effect with FedEx. We've been on them now about 4 years. We've been on the electronic logs. And the paper logs, I always liked a lot better. I mean, it was, I say that, and then I'll backtrack a little bit. I liked them better because you could fudge. You can't fudge with the electronic ones right now. Now, the part I don't like, the part I do like about the electronic ones, you just punch it in and it does everything for you. So when you stop, take a break, it writes it down. Everything's clocked in. So that does make it easier. And it does make it easier for me as a contractor for electronic logs, because I can go on my computer right here or my laptop or even on the road and check on any of my drivers and I'll be able to make sure that they're on schedule and make sure that everything's running smooth there. So it does have its advantages for me when I try to do the electronic logs and everything. There's a lot of advantages. Now there is some aggravation with it when you get into a situation where there's a breakdown or some other road construction. Now there are some provisions for that, but still it can be kind of hairy on that, and we can't have so many log violations within a year, or they'll eliminate the driver or suspend the driver. A lot of different things like that. Between that and the gosh, what's the other one they got out now? Oh, got a mine drain. There's another violation out there. Well, it'll come to me. I can't even think what to call it right now. But anyway, they got the my wife is here. She'd help me out. Anyway, the violations that they come back now on your license. Gosh, somebody help me out here. I know somebody knows what I'm talking about. I can't think of the terminology. Well, basically, it comes back. Say if you have a light out, or if you have any other violation with your truck that you did not check, it comes back on your driver's license now, as opposed to just coming back to the company. So many people aren't aware of that, and I have what do they call that? Come on, people, help me out. The terminology sometimes with the old brain here. The new terminology for some of these things will get to me because I'm trying to remember some of it. Gosh, I can't think about it. Sunday morning, somebody's popping in. I know my chat's getting busy, so I'm having to wait to catch up with it. But the situation with driving as it stands right now, it's different, way different than it used to be with when I first started. I mean, when you think back at the times, and this is something that I've discussed with some of the others, when you think back what I had to go through with, and let's say I got into actually driving on the road about 1971. The trucks that I had no power steering, no air conditioning, no air ride suspension, no air ride seat. That's the type truck that I learned on and worked for with Carolina Freight Carriers. That their fleet was like that. It wasn't one special truck that I had that was that bad. Their fleet was that way. And the only ones that had air conditioning were the team drivers. The actual Georgia drivers that went to Georgia and back, no AC, no power steering, no air ride suspension. They drove from Cherryville to Atlanta, Georgia and back. No special features. They did the same thing going there. Now there were some of those that actually had layovers where they would go. I think Macon, if you had to go into Macon, you had to lay over because you couldn't make it in your 8-hour time. So they would go down, and those guys didn't mind it too bad because they could actually make it. I think back then, and 7 hours they get paid for 8. It was what they call a guaranteed 8, so they would get paid for more. But hey, JC, yeah, that's right. Yep, we had a lot of those 260 airs back then, and 60. We're lucky if it was 60 on those early trucks. Those early trucks, I remember a lot of times going down I-85 down toward Greenville South. I used to run a lot of runs from Cherryville to Greenville South, back up, or Greer. We had a Greer terminal from there back into Charlotte, on up to Greensboro and around. I was doing a lot of regional running like that, and that's what we had. And I always liked the nighttime driving because of the fact of no AC. And then after after that, I'm getting my chat filled up so much. well, that's exactly right, JC. Yeah, the older trucks, you can imagine no, and one other thing, no Jake brake either, too, because I came off of a lot of times would come off Black Mountain or Fancy Gap, and you talking about worried about having your brakes go out on you and having hit that pit, that sand pit. That was a scary thing, and that happened, and it happened a lot more frequency back then because, like I said, they didn't have Jake brakes back in the '70s. I rarely heard of a Jake brake at all, and companies didn't start putting on Jake brakes to, gosh, I want to say up and into the '80s. You would hear more about Jake brakes, but back in the '70s, no way. Dragon's tail. I don't know what the dragon's tail is. Now, if you're talking about mountains, now they may have. We got Fancy Gap, which is over on I-77. We got Black Mountain, which is on I-85. Then you've got Saluda on I-26, and then let's see, what's the one they call up there on I-70? Oh, okay, yeah, I don't know about that. Now you could have that, but on the trucks now, it used to be you Highway 52 coming out of the old Fancy Gap is the way it used to go. It got so bad and so many people got killed off of that and bad wrecks off of that. They actually banned all trucks from going down Highway 52. Still to this day. Yeah, but it's a situation. It's a situation where yeah, the trucks have really improved, and we've even talked about this in our safety meeting for the newer drivers. The problem that we're getting into nowadays. I mean, I've got the old guys like me. I've got the feel for the truck, and I know what a truck will do and how it stops. Tennessee North Carolina border. That would have to be something probably up there around Cherokee, I would imagine. That's what you're talking about, Sarge. I can't, unless it's up above between there and Asheville somewhere. You've got coming off of, when you come off of 26 out of, 26 now extends all the way to the Tennessee line. But it's pretty safe. It's not a bad looking hill coming off there going toward Bristol. So I don't know. It must be one of the back roads up there that I don't take a truck on. But anyway, getting back to the hills and everything, and the way trucks used to be, it was really tough. It was really tough to come off these mountains with no Jake brake. Like I said, you had no air ride suspension, no Jake brakes, no air conditioning, and you were sweating bullets too because of the fact that it was a little bit scary, or a lot scary if the load was bad or if it's loaded wrong. And we were coming off with 45-foot trailer, or 40 and 45-foot trailers back then. We didn't have the 53s. We didn't have the, but the braking system on the trucks and the trailers, and even the trucks too, hadn't changed that much. It's better now, but it's not. It's still, we don't have disc brakes. We still got, your pads, your hubs, and everything the same. So that part's the same. The Jake brake changed a lot of it, but the young drivers, and this is something I have to caution if you're a young driver out there right now listening to this. The one thing that we see is so many of them feel like they're driving their car. Yeah, I know it. I'm going to try to get some of them with disc brakes because that is a safer situation. and it lasts longer too. That's what they say. But the young drivers I see out there now drive the tractor trailer trucks like they drive their car, and they don't have the feel for how much stopping distance you really need. They they take advantage of everything we've got with the ABS brakes, with you know uh, all the power. It feels like a car when you're out there driving in comparison to the day that when I started. Now, I wish for everybody that's driving a tractor trailer truck that they could have the feel of the old vehicles and the danger of the old vehicle, because that's the inherent danger that's actually out there, even with the new trucks, but you don't feel it. You don't have the seat presence that you used to have. And that's the part that really, I think, makes things dangerous, more dangerous out there, is that you don't have the feel for it. It used to be in the day. Now, I had an older driver when I first started, and I was scared to death of the snow. And my first time I ever hit the snow, and he told me, he said, Mike, he said, what you do, you pretend that you've got a egg in between your foot and the brake pedal as you're hitting your brakes in the snow. Now, I used that for years, and I did a soft pedal. And most people that drive in the snow will tell you, your brakes are your worst enemy in the snow. If you cannot maneuver your equipment without the brakes, then you're going too fast for the condition. You need to be able to drive and not fly down the road, because I mean, most of the wrecks you see in snow and ice and everything else is the person has overdriven the equipment on the conditions that you've got. You slow it down. You make it so that your acceleration and deceleration will control the situation in the snow. And if people learn that and don't try to fly up on situations, hit their brakes, hoping that these ABS brakes will stop everything just right, is fine. But if they learn that your acceleration and your steering go hand in hand, and not your brakes. Your brakes can be your worst enemy. If you're relying on your brakes in snow, you're already overdriving the situation. Because as most people with a lot of experience, and I know a lot of these guys that like JC and some of the other guys that live up north, they know exactly what I'm talking about. They do that even more than I do. Now, I don't have to hit it so much, and I basically have southern routes because of the fact that I don't want to pick up the phone and get a phone call from somebody that they're in a ditch, because they, same excuse. I came up on something, I couldn't stop and got in a ditch, or slid down an embankment, turned one over. That's exactly right, JC. ABS brakes are for the people that don't know how to drive under the conditions right. And the government has mandated all this, thinking that they're going to make drivers safer. And in my opinion, what they've done, they've given them an extra crutch, and these drivers start over driving. Well, hey, Chris, glad to see you out there. You've been playing with all your toys this literally toys this week. I know, Chris. Chris has been out, I think went to an auction and got a lot of old metal toys and different kind of toys. And that's right, JC. They make it so an idiot can drive the trucks now. I mean, you think about it. I mean, I know, not to offend everybody out there that drives automatics, but you've got the automatics, you got the ABS brakes, you've got air ride suspension, you got, like I said, the AC, the cruise. You got every feature on a big truck now that you used to have just primarily on an expensive car. And that's really different. I mean, if you go back, like I said, and I wish for everybody that wants to learn how to be a truck driver that they could go back and experience what I experienced back in the early 70s. It's a different experience. It is a different experience. You get I know you, if you ever listen to the NASCAR guys, and this is about the best relationship you can say with them, they tell you, you know, they want to fill it in their pants. They want to be able to fill it in the seat. And those guys make it rough on themselves so they can get the best feel for the car. I mean, they don't have, forward crash avoidance. We've got to be putting that on our new trucks. That's something that FedEx is mandating that we as contractors have to put on our trucks, and it's costing me a fortune. I've already started buying trucks. I've bought 11 of them so far that we have got that forward collision avoidance system on the trucks, and that in itself is coming up with problems. Yep. Yeah. If a person could feel the seat, like I said, if you get out and work with equipment, now JC Smith, that you see him on here, JC does a lot of things with a lot of different equipment, and he gets the feel of the seat. And even with heavy equipment, it's the same way with bulldozer drivers, and when you're doing large landscaping. And believe it or not, those things are changing too. I have a good friend that sells Caterpillar. He's a salesman for Caterpillar. And that's one of the things he's talking about, that the new operators coming along for bulldozers don't have the seat feel of a bulldozer the way they used to. Now they've actually said that they've got out on phone service calls because the GPS went out on these machines and the guy couldn't run it without his GPS. And, the operators are getting so dependent on technology. So if technology fails, then they can't operate it. Now, everybody the old school that runs heavy equipment of any sort, you know that you want the feel of the equipment. I mean, if you've got a Great All or a Bobcat or a D5 or anything out there that you're running, you want to be able to feel where that equipment's moving and how it's moving, so you can operate it. It relates to you, your brain, and how that should operate, as opposed to punch in coordinates, this and that, and sit back and relax. And that's what we're getting into. We're getting the farmers are farming that way. The truck drivers are driving that way. And also the grading equipment is driving that way too. And you don't realize it till you get out and see some of the new modern equipment, that everybody's relying on that technology, and we're losing the skill set because of the fact that we don't know how to drive the older equipment. And if somebody were to get on an old John Deere or an old Cat bulldozer or get in an old tractor trailer truck, I mean, I've actually had some people that I thought were knowledgeable get in one of my older trucks and they go, I don't know how to drive this. I'm going, why not? And they go, well, I've never been taught this or this or this. And it's mind boggling to me, because you think that, hey, now say a Mac twin stick duplex, that's what that was what I was taught on when I was a switcher at Carolina Freight. We had, I started on the old International, what they used to have, but the majority of the time that I was a switcher at Carolina Freight, that's what I drove, was a Mac. They had a B61 Mac with a duplex. They had it chopped and shorted, had it shortened up so we could just reach through. They cut out the back glass, and we would just reach through and get the airline, and then had an air lift on it. And you guys, you'll have to understand, this is why I wear hearing aids now, because for about 11 years I did this under oh, you started on a B61 quadruplex. Oh yeah. Well, that's two more shifts. Yeah, you got 1, 2, 3, 4 on the quadruplex. I've driven a quadruplex and a triplex. I've driven all of those, but I primarily learned on a duplex, Tim. So yeah, if you learned on those things, then you got some good experience, and you learn to do it with your RPMs, and you learn to do it with you learn to do it with uh, uh, a little more skill set there that most people will never have. Yeah, yeah. The old Detroit's. Yeah, the old Detroit's, the 318s, what was it, 273s, and the big V8 Detroit's. Yeah, those were the ones where you go to the truck stop and you say, fill it up with oil and check my fuel, because that darn thing would sling the oil out. I mean, I remember going on some of those trips, and they would load you up at Carolina Freight, and they'd say, well, here's your couple of 2 or 3 gallons of oil. You know, you can make that 400-mile trip, because they knew that darn thing was not going to. It sounded like it sounded like it was really going to pull. I remember the first time on the yard at Carolina Freight that they had the 318s. I go, man, that thing's really great there. And some of the drivers, when we first got them, said, oh man, yeah, give me one of those 318s. Well, they love the sound of it, but then they hit a hill and they go, oh God, it has no power. And those guys with the cat engines were just walking right by them. Those cats. I'm trying to think, was it 3206? I believe it was the 3206 cat that Carolina had. Now they would cut them back because they had too much power for them. But when they first got them, they would cut them back, and but they had walked the dog, as the old saying goes, in comparison to the Detroits. I mean, Detroits sounded like, I mean, you'd run down the road side by side with a Detroit and a cat and the old Carolinas that we used to have, and the guy's going along, and he just kind of humming along over here at this cat engine, and the Detroit, he sounds like a hot rod. I mean, it sounded like a hot rod, and you'd be going like, man, this is great. Then you hit a hill, and that hot rod would just fall off, and that cat just kept on moving. And the old Macs would even do that too. You'd get some of those old Macs. I mean, Roadway used to have a lot of the old Macs with the 6-speed, and you'd hear them, and they'd be chugging along, and you'd outrun them going down a hill, and next thing you know, you'd be hitting the hill, and that old Mac would just be chugging right along. He'd just pass you back. He'd outpull you, and that's the way it used to be. Now, of course, that's when we ran with our windows down. We could hear everybody's engines. It wasn't like today's times when everybody's, like I said, sitting back with their stereo and their air conditioning and their cruise. And unfortunately, too many of them are on their devices, and we have situations with that too. And this is the enemy of all drivers out here. Every driver, whether it's car, truck, whatever, that's your enemy right here. Too many people are paying attention to these going down the road, and we're having a lot of people that are getting hurt, injured, killed, and it's tough. But you know, that's the way it's going to be. I think for a lot of years, a lot of people are we're going to have to adapt. We're going to have to adapt, and you know, people are talking about the autonomous vehicles and everything. Hey, Matt, glad to see you finally made it up. Of course, it's 8:30 out there where you're at. Not it's 9:30 here. I hope you didn't have a hard night last night, Matt. But yeah, but you know, the situation with like I said, with the technology changes and everything, we all have to adapt to it. I'm having to adapt to it myself. Late night last night. Oh, good gracious! I hope you got your belly full, Matt. I know you went out eating somewhere real good last night, so I hope you got your belly full. But you know, like I was saying earlier, I've had a real busy week this week. My week is I'm getting texts and everything else here. I'm trying not to be. See, here I am. I'm over here. We're talking about technology. There's 2 of my phones. I got all the trucking texts and the calls and everything that come in. So yeah, we're going to have to change. Sarge, I see you're thinking about the ELDs. I'm trying to get my head wrapped around it. We've got a couple of the new ELDs. I think it's 2019 is they're making us change in December of 19. I think you're going to have to change out to the new ELDs. I mean, they had some. I'm trying to think of the distinct how they distinguish between the ELDs. There's two different kinds, and end of the month and dealing with idiots. Join the crowd on that now. Yeah, yeah, Dragonfly trucks. I drove up many of those Dragonfly trucks, JC. That's for sure. Yeah, you'd hit a big hill, boy. You'd fly down that hill. You'd be doing 75 miles an hour at the bottom of the hill, and then you go back up the next hill, and then you're dragging ass because you're doing everything you do, and you're hitting the gears. And you're going into the low side, and I remember somebody on a CB one time hollering at me. He said, when I was at Carolina Freight, he said, Carolina, said, can't you make that truck go any faster? And I said, well, I could go a little bit faster, but I said, that's mandated that I stay with the truck because I could have got out and almost outwalked it, you know. I mean, it's one of those situations and you get it. I have really, truly have been in some trucks before, the old trucks, that I went through all the gears and I was scared to death that I was not going to be able to pull it in granny. I mean, I have been in that situation before, and it's a bad situation. I was in a dump truck one time and was going up a real steep hill with a load, and I know dump truck drivers will appreciate this, but I had a triaxle dump with a small cat engine. It wasn't even it might have been a 32. It might have been a 3206, but it only had a 10-speed and it was geared too high for the mountains. And we were actually going up, and I think it was like a 7% grade. It was a tough grade that we were going up over on the other side of Newland, North Carolina. And I had it all the way in granny, and it was almost not making it. And I go, oh crap, if this truck, if it gets up there and stalls and rolls backwards, it will actually, I don't know if anybody's ever done it, it will run that engine backwards at that point, and then you're in big trouble. Then you're going to lose it if it gets like that, because that engine is going to run backwards, that transmission is going to run backwards, so first is going to be reverse, everything. That's a crazy situation to ever get in. And plus, on top of it, I think it'll tear the engine all to pieces too, because it's not pumping the oil right and everything else. So, but I never got into that situation. I came close to it one time, scared the crap out of me, I'll tell you that. But I have heard of people that's actually happened to, that you would run it all the way up until it actually quit and ran that backward, that engine, made that engine start running backwards. And that's tough. That's tough. That's sort of like when a turbo goes out. I've actually had a turbo to go out and run the engine wide open, warped every valve we had in the engine. It was a Detroit too. And, but it got fuel. I mean, it got oil and everything into the turbo, and it was turned back on, and it ran it up to almost 4,000 RPMs. I mean, it sounded terrible. Yeah. And I know you've probably heard of the ones that have run away. Have y'all ever had one run away with you in the shop, Matt? I know that's what we had happen on ours. I mean, we were in the shop, but we couldn't shut it down quick enough. I mean, the turbo had blown and threw oil into the engine, and we replaced the turbo. And before we could, I mean, it was a terrible situation. It tore that engine up pretty bad. We had to go in there and we basically overhauled that engine again, because it warped the valves. It did everything on that when it ran away with us like that. I'm glad, I was lucky it didn't do even more damage to it. But That's what they call a runaway engine there too. I mean, when uh, people don't realize what it does. Yeah, yeah. My checking account's gone backwards before too. My wife fussed at JC. You'll understand what I was going through this week. I made the decision after talking to my wife about buying out this other parts house, and she thought I wasn't going to do it, and I went ahead and did it. And uh, I had to I had to sweeten the situation for her all week long. But she finally came around. She got to see what inventory I bought, and she saw all the work I had to do. But it was not a pleasant situation there after I wrote the check for buying out that other parts house. She was not too happy with me there for a little bit. But sometimes, yeah, uh, yeah. Yeah, 13 reverses and one forward. Yeah, and that's what you get into with the one that's running backwards like that. And you know that we're talking old trucking for some people. I mean, most people would never get into that situation, I think. And it's just one of those. It's one of those situations that it's scary. Uh, but it's good to have this knowledge from the old school, and it's good to have the knowledge from the way, if you can learn, the more you can learn about the technology, the equipment, the better off you are. We time and time again, we have breakdowns out there for things that people shouldn't be breaking down on. We have drivers that, they, if they only could use a little common sense and have a little bit of working knowledge, could keep the truck running. I mean, we've got trucks nowadays that have so many sensors on them that will shut down that truck in just a second or two that it's pathetic. I mean, it used to be, and I've told this story before. I had one of my trucks that got derated coming back out of Alabama one time. I had a team on this run, and they were coming out of Alabama, and the truck derated itself. And it was one of the very first ones that it was a 2008 model truck. And it was one of the first ones that had the regen system. And the regen, basically, we had a clamp that broke on an exhaust clamp that broke on the truck. Didn't know it. And we're talking a brand new truck. This truck didn't have 50,000 miles on it. Didn't have that many trips under its belt or anything. And we took it into a TA, told them to take it into a TA, and they said, well, we don't have any equipment to check it. We don't have any way of doing it, blah, 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 and all that sort of stuff. Long story short, we had to get a wrecker. We got a wrecker. Cost me $1,800 to get a wrecker down to Alabama, pull that truck back to Charlotte. They paid for the repair part, which was $13 for an exhaust clamp that broke. And because that exhaust clamp broke and we didn't know it, it wouldn't let enough particulates be used up in the burner, and enough particulates didn't go through that, and I guess it was sucking too much raw air or whatever, and it shut the engine down. It derated the engine. The engine of the truck wouldn't go but 15, 20 miles an hour. So that's a situation we've gotten ourselves into now. We got so many sensors. And had this been an older truck, had this been a truck that like a 3206 or an ON14 or something like that, all we would have had done, what the driver would have called me and said, I believe we got a leak in an exhaust pipe or something. It's a little bit louder. We could have driven it on in, fixed it, put it back on the road. Wouldn't hurt anything. But because the new sensors tell it, that says, oh no, you can't. You got to stop. You got to stop that truck. So you stop. Or there. It's not that we got to stop it. It will make it stop. It will shut the engine down to a derated engine, and you can't go anywhere. And we see that more and more now. Guys get out there and they run and they don't put the DEF in a truck, and the truck shuts down because of that, or they don't know how to regen one, or when the regen comes on, they override things. Just a lot of different things. We've got a whole new situation. I had a guy that was over Penske Fleet came by my shop, and he was talking about years ago that Penske set aside a majority of their repairs and everything on tires. Tires were the major thing. But now it's exhaust related problems. The DEF, the regens, everything else. They say that probably 60% of the faults that they have or breakdowns on the road are exhaust related because of the DEF and the regen systems and the filters and everything else. So it's the emissions is terrible. Yeah, it will. It'll catch like Matt. Now Matt is the guys that are on here and they don't know who Matt is. Matt is actually a super mechanic. He actually works on Detroit. He used to work for the major Detroit engine, Clark Power, I think, and now he's working at a dealership. But for people that want to know who that is, Matt, Diesel Matt there is a very intelligent person and gives us, a lot of good advice and everything. I'm proud to say I've got a lot of good people on our chat rooms and everything that are really smart people. I enjoyed getting the chats, and actually I go back and yeah, well, Matt says he's a dummy that's got papers proving that he's certified Detroit and Cummins. Right. Yeah. But I've actually seen him do some work online, and, there's some videos out there of Matt actually doing it. And I think everybody that's used Matt has been proud of what the job he's done. So I'm going to give a shout out to Matt. He's like, I've got a guy, Jason, that does my work like that. That's over here in North Carolina, and he's slam up. He knows the issues. He deals with the manufacturers. We have Freightliner plants right over here next to us, and he is he's just about the representative for them. Yeah. Matt's the Detroit and the Cummins guru, as JC put it there. Yeah, and you've got to. It's great. I think we got a great. Well, we'll say that, Matt. You may call yourself that, but I think there you go, JC. JC had to correct his. He put Detroit twice, but I knew what you meant, JC. Yeah, it's. I'm proud to be able to be involved with the community we have out here online. I feel like I've got a lot of good friends out here now with JC, Matt, Doug, Sarge, all you different guys that we put input out here and we kind of share information. And I think it's been really good. I try to have a positive channel that we can go and chat on Sunday mornings, and during the week I'll jump in here too. But I've been trying to do this Sunday morning chat, and people that want to know a little bit about trucking or equipment or, just whatever, jump in here. Tell your friends about our channel. I enjoy chatting with these guys, have been for the past good many months, and the community gets larger, and I enjoy the ones that are out here that we talk with, and I really think that there's a wealth of knowledge out there, and everybody that's got pages or got videos, like JC puts out a lot. If people want to see JC stuff, now you'll be amazed at how much knowledge he has, especially when it comes to Ford. If you're a person with Ford, yeah, getting your hip. JC, you got to let me know when you're coming down to Tennessee. I might have to run over and see you if we can't get together on this other truck. I know you understand my situation. Why I got to still buy that service truck from you. Don't think that's off we're off the hook on that. If you still have it, I got to get that service truck because I've just been swamped. This week has been a mad week for me because I've got to maintain the business with my trucking and my auto parts. Plus, I had to take people away from parts of that business and help me move all this. I mean, I've had 5 or 6 guys over just getting filthy dirty, trying to get all these old parts moved over. But I think I'll have to show when I get everything sort of arranged so people can see it. I'll show you some things. Kind of unique. I enjoyed. Chris will probably get a kick out of it. It's sort of like going to an auction because I was able to get a lot of older parts and things that I actually don't carry and that I don't really get that much call for, but it's a unique part that I like to have. And I'm thinking, gosh, that's good that I'm getting this because this is not something I would normally carry in the parts store. Probably don't have the demand for it like I would, but I still like the fact that I'm going to have those kind of parts in my store because sometimes somebody will come in and they will need that. And they will be a good loyal customer from there on out. So I'm trying to I have to get back on that now. So we actually ordered another one, Sarge. So we're ordering a second one. Now Landon's been driving that diesel Landon Walker. He's my partner. He's the young partner that I've got coming on. He's one that actually he's the NASCAR guy. He's a gas man for the 24 car, and he's the gas man on Saturdays for Elliott Sadler. I think that's the number 1 car. But that's who Landon is. Now Landon's driving that truck. He and his wife started working for us about 6 or 8 months ago, and we're going to bring them in. They're going to be my retirement plan one of these days because of the fact that they're going to take more of the duties for the trucks. And even like yesterday, Christy, we've switched some of the trucks over to her, and she had an issue yesterday, handled it real good. And we had to get the old wrecker out. I had to call my guy, and we had one that I had to ask Matt about this. I had one that came on with the no engine code. I know you, and I, of course, I think what we either got a problem with the fuse link going from to the ECM, or we got an ECM problem, I think. But it would crank up and run, and then it would quit. Then it crank up and run, and it would quit. It started doing that on his trip back, and it's a regular 60 series. I'm thinking it's about a 07 truck, and I think we either got a wiring harness or an ECM problem or a fuse link or something. I'm gonna have to get my Detroit specialist on that, and but it's one of those issues. I know the Yep, that's the power wires to the ECM first. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do because I think we could either have a bad wiring harness going back to the ECM. Yeah, it's in a Columbia. And I'm gonna have to check that little box right behind the driver's seat too. They got a little box back there that is giving us trouble before, where you got the wiring harness goes into it, and we've had that where but this one came up with a no engine code on it, and yeah, good old wiring problems. Yep, I know it. Yeah, you're good at it, JC. I wish I had yours. I need to be able to get yours and Matt's the PDM behind the seat. Yeah, that's what I was talking about. Yeah, that one has given us problems before too, where you have to. It's got a little door flap right there behind the driver's seat, and you have to check that. And yeah, that's probably, I would think it's one of those issues. It's what we've got, but because it would come on. I mean, all of his, I at first thought maybe he would just. We've had the sensors to go bad on the fuel. I mean, the water sensor. I know when the water gets murky or something changed, or if you got too much water and not enough antifreeze, that sensor, we've had those sensors to go bad or not read right. And I was going to have him jump across that, but then he Yeah. 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 And that's exactly that's what's happening, Matt. And we need to, we're going to check that out, and I'll see if I can get Jason on that tomorrow or Tuesday, and see if we can get that one resolved and get it squared up. But yeah, that's been that's been the situation with that. Most of them we're getting squared up pretty good. We've got a lot more spares now that I've sold some of those routes, and we haven't geared up as much as in Savannah yet. We're in the process of gearing up in Savannah, but the routes, it's made it easier on me selling those Greensboro routes. I know that for sure. We sold those 5 routes, and so I have fewer problems and fewer headaches of worrying about trucks not starting right or whatever. You know, there's nothing worse than a $5 item shutting you down that drives you crazy because you're 300 miles away from it. Yeah, nobody wants to drive the spare. They get set up in their truck, Chris, and that's what they want. And that's what happens. I run into that. Not unless I give them one that's way newer. That's you know, it's that way. Yeah, I have them sometimes where the AC is not as good in one truck as it is in another truck, and my answer to that, and when they call and complain about AC problems, I'll tell them, I said, well, you know, I made sure and equipped every single truck that I have with a window handle on it. So you can roll that window down, and you hear some guys say, "Oh man, I just can't drive a truck." You can drive a truck 100 miles without AC on. I mean, anybody can. 100 miles, 200 miles, whatever. I mean, you know, I've had them call. I had one call last week about his FM radio. The reception was bad, and could I change out the radio? And I had to tell him right quick, I'm sorry, I do not supply radios. If it's got a radio in that truck, fine, you got a truck with a radio. But if it doesn't have a radio in it, I'm sorry, you can listen to your iPod, iPhone, whatever you want to do. You can create your own entertainment. I'm not out there to try to luxurize or fix luxuries on vehicles. My main objective on the trucks is I want AC. I'll try to get the AC, the power steering, and all that sort of stuff. Those luxuries, granted, I'll give you all of that. But I'm not going to worry about an FM radio. Yeah. It's not. It's you can drive. You can maintain a job without a FM radio, but some people think you can't. And I've actually had. I got a couple trucks with Sirius radio in it, and I had one guy call me complain that I'd let the Sirius go dead on the truck. And I go, well, that's fine. If you want to have the subscription and we'll keep you in that truck, you subscribe to Sirius. I said, you know, I'm not going to subscribe to Sirius. I mean, it comes with, you know, the new trucks. And when it went dead, I didn't renew it. I'm not driving it. I'm not going to pay the, I don't know what it is, $15, $20 a month so he can hear Sirius radio. You know, so that's well, it is. It's overrated. I mean, it's good. I mean, I've got Sirius in my personal vehicles. I mean, I like to flip over on the NASCAR channels, and I'm old. FM radio doesn't have my music anymore. I can tell you that. So I guess I'm more dependent on Sirius radio. And of course, you know, there's other things out there too. I mean, you got Pandora, and you've got even shoot, what am I trying to see? Pandora has it. Google has their own channels. There's a ton of different. I mean, there's so many different ones out there. Even Amazon Music too. I've got Amazon Music, so there's a ton of things out there. Yeah. Oh, your wife. Yeah, I know. Yeah, the wife's like a lot of them. I can tell you that. Yeah, the wives are pretty good about. I do try to keep my wife's car in good shape when it comes to the luxuries. I have found out through the years, happy wife, happy life. I mean, yeah, yeah. I mean, that's one way of looking at it. Yeah, if the wife's or as the saying goes, if the wife ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. So I do try to, yeah, yeah. An All Star is a good thing, Chris. I mean, I we got something like that in my BMW. I don't know what it is, but yeah. JC, nice seeing you in here, cleaning up the truck. Yeah, JC, I'm gonna have to give you a personal call before long, so I'll get up with you. I know you know I've been busy this week, and I'll chat with you. Yeah, not a lot. Yeah, I know it. I listen to Pandora. I got a Pandora account, and I've got yeah, and I like the classic country, and I've got the Amazon Music, and Google's got music, and you know once you get like with Amazon especially, you know you get the Amazon Prime, which I think a lot of people have, which is a great deal as much as I buy, and it's yeah, yeah. You know, everything's becoming better with all these different systems. Yeah, the Android works good, and the iPod system works good too with the Ford. I know it's got that newest Ford we've got. It's got CarPlay, I believe it's called, and it works really great. It takes every app off of your iPhone and basically transfers it over to your screen device, so you can work with that. Yeah, I got Amazon Prime is great. I think if you do any shipping at all, and I look at the deals on Amazon, and you know if they don't have Prime and the free shipping, I'll pass it up and go to something else because you know you might find something. And I looked at something yesterday, and I said, oh well, this is $4 cheaper or $5 cheaper, but then no Prime, and freight was $10. I said, well. That's not cheaper. Well, you can, Sarge. I guess I just keep it because of the fact that I get everything else with it. I mean, of course, I get the Amazon Music, I get the Prime movies. I've got it set up at the beach, so I can get the Amazon Prime movies, and then also I've got stuff through my Apple TV, and it works really good. Yeah, you got to kind of watch this though, because you'll get $10 to death by everybody. I know I've had to drop a few things, and the bad thing about it is you get stuff on your credit card that you don't realize it's repeating itself, and you'll go, wait a minute, why am I getting charged this? And oh yeah, I actually canceled something last week that I had let linger on. I bought it several years ago and didn't realize that it was still on there, and boy, they had jumped it way up too on me. Is that Vonage? I had one of these Vonage lines, and gosh, I forget what it was they were charging me. It was like $18 or $25 or something like that. Uh, See you later, Greg. I'm gonna hammer down and try to keep everything rolling. And I appreciate everybody jumping in here. And I'm gonna get off here in just a few minutes too. I've had a good meeting on. I like the chat as long as I can, and if I don't lose my voice, I'll have to drink a little bit more of my Mountain Dew. But guys, I think I'll end it too. It's been nice. Come back and see me next Sunday morning, and we'll try to get on here again and talk some more. And no, I'm not going to stay live every day. That's for sure. Oh, hey, Junior. I'm sorry, Junior. We're getting ready to about end this thing. I've been on here about an hour and 15 minutes, hour and 10 minutes. So, yeah. Well, Matt, glad you jumped out here and everything. Well, guys, I'm going to get off. I'm sorry I'm going to have to end the stream for the ones that just came on. Go back and listen to what we were talking about if you want to, and look at the chat room. And hopefully we'll get back out here next Sunday at 9 o'clock a.m. On the East Coast. And if you're you're interested in listening to what we got to chat about, talk about, come on over. All right, Junior, nice seeing you in here. And sorry I'm having to end the stream, but my voice is about gone. Talk to you later, guys. See you next week.